everyone, and welcome to another exciting version of Chip Talks. Today, we're going to talk about a superbug, a bug called H. pylori. Now, if you're like me, well, before we get into this, so if you have gastric upset, if you have burping, if you have Gerd symptoms, ulcers, things like that, then this episode is going to be for you. We're going to talk a lot about what's going on with you and a lot about how we can potentially fix it. If you're like me, you probably grew up with this notion that we could have a mass pandemic, right? And we did have a mass pandemic with COVID-19. But this thought has kind of been, let's say, narratived into a lot of our heads that, you know, there are these bugs out there that can beat us, and we just, you know, we need to be inoculated against them, vaccinated against them, you know, all these things. Well, that's kind of true and kind of not. Your immune system is super robust, right? So if there was let's say there was a virus that could beat any immune system, or a bacteria that could beat any immune system, then humanity would cease to exist. We'd be gone. These things would have already beat us and defeated us, and we would be a blip in the historical lifespan of the Earth. Well, that hasn't happened. Why? Because again, we have a robust immune system. So eventually we can, you know, either evolve into or figure out how to beat things like COVID or H. pylori or stuff like this. That right now, H. pylori is a superbug. It is something that is very prevalent in the population. So we probably see H. pylori in at least half of the people that come in and get scanned in our clinic. So it's something that's very prevalent. It's even more prevalent in developing countries. So let's say the poorer the country is, the more likelihood that that country will suffer from big H. pylori outbreaks. So let's talk a little bit about what H. pylori is, and let's talk a little bit about how he wins, how he beats your immune system, and how your immune system, you know, is designed to keep you from getting infected with things like H. pylori. So first of all, H. pylori is passed in saliva. It can be passed in saliva. So if you're the person that you're kissing all the time has H. pylori, then you guys are going to share H. pylori. So it's easily transmitted. It's easily transmitted in water. So it could be in, you know, contaminated water. It could be in the public water supply, and, you know, we likely would never know it. So it's something that's pretty much everywhere, and it's very easily transmitted. So stopping it by understanding how it's transmitted is unlikely. So the more important thing is to understand what it's doing inside of us and how we can defend against it. And all of these pathogens, and when I say pathogen, what I'm saying is bacterias, funguses, viruses, or parasites. They're basically things that your body thinks are pathogens. But bacteria are the simplest of those, but sometimes the hardest to defeat. So like strep and staph, we know get all over us they can get in us. They can cause things like pandas. They can cause nerve issues. They can cause all kinds of stuff. And they shouldn't. So strep and staph really shouldn't become unbounded. Our immune system should be able to fight off strep and staph very easily. But yeah, we see it in a lot of people. And this is the big why. So how do we defend against H. pylori? It's by understanding our immune system and understanding what H. pylori is doing to beat our immune system. So first of all, if you have a strong immune system, you should be able to beat all these guys. There shouldn't be anything that really infects us. And again, if there was, it would kill us all, because if it could beat one of us, it can beat all of us, and it would spread and kill us all. So we're always going to be able to defeat these guys with a healthy and robust immune system. But none of us have a healthy and robust immune system. So we'll talk about that a little bit at the end of this. But let's talk a little bit more about how H. pylori gets in us, right? So we drink some water that's infected with H. pylori. We kiss our wives or kiss our dog that has H. pylori. We get H. pylori. Now, what happens? Well, these guys want to get into our stomach lining. That's a tall order because your stomach is very acidic and will kill these bacteria without their processes. And it's hard to burrow into your stomach lining. And you got several ways that you defend that area. So the first way that you defend that area is mucus. And the second way that you defend that area is through an antibody called IgA. And IgA is the first antibody that we develop when we're born, because it's super important that we have to defend our mucosal layer, because that's what's exposed to air. That's what's exposed to all these bacteria and hook and round and pinworm and all this kind of stuff. So H. pylori has to worm its way through the mucosal layer, get to the stomach lining, and attach itself without being killed by IgA and 100,000 other processes that you have to kill it, which it does. All right. And it actually has toxins that it releases to sort of burrow through the mucosal layer and get to the stomach layer. It's got toxins it releases to burrow into the stomach layer. And then it's got a process where it converts basically acid, stomach acid in its environment, to ammonia. So it's got to tell. You can always tell if you have pylori by measuring the amount of ammonia, and there are other bugs that create ammonia. So he's not the only ammonia causer. But he is able basically to convert that to ammonia, which is amazing. And normally you would kill it. Your stomach acid would kill it, but because he can convert that to basically ammonia, then he stays alive. And that's through a process called urease. Pylori has two different kinds of toxins that it releases. It's also got some adhesion molecules that are not so good. But what he wants to do, or his strategy, appears to be to calm down your immune response in the area where he's infecting you, but also cause inflammation and cause other things to happen. So he's kind of I'm going to be chewing on you right here in this area, but over here in these other places, I'm going to make a whole bunch of things happen so your immune system gets distracted. And that's his way of avoiding the immune system. All of these pathogens have different ways to avoid the immune system, and they're effective at it, at least right now, with our current understanding of our immune system. So if we know that we have H. pylori, well, let's talk about that real quick. So how would you know if you had H. pylori? Well, if your stomach burns when you eat food, it's almost certain that you have H. pylori. If you've been told that you have ulcers, if you've been told that you have Gerd, then you most likely have H. pylori. So H. pylori would be the underlying cause of ulcers. It's, God is a perfect engineer. He doesn't just decide one day, hey, Chip, I'm going to give you an ulcer. Here you go, bucko. It takes something for that ulcer to form. It takes something to cause that disruption and infection. And that is almost always H. pylori. There's very few other causes of ulcers other than H. pylori. H. pylori causes pancreatic cancer. He causes colon cancer. He's comorbid with breast cancer, with at least estrogen eating breast cancer, and he would be comorbid with really all estrogen eating cancers. Okay. So he's not a friendly guy, and he's not someone that we want in us. We don't want him in us. Now, what happens when we get infected with something like H. pylori is our immune system is concerned about it, absolutely, and tries to defeat that thing. But as that thing defeats our immune system and takes hold, well, now our immune system gets really concerned about it, and we start using a lot of resources to try to defeat that thing. Those resources come from bone. So how you initially fight an infection like H. pylori is you're going to be pulling stem cells from bone that are what create immune mediators that you're going to try to kill that H. pylori with. So those immune mediators all come from bone, and you've got a certain turnover rate that you can handle in bone. But if you exceed that turnover rate, then you're going to have osteoporosis. So one of the consequences of a severe H. pylori infection is osteoporosis. One of the second things that happens is H. pylori wants to mess with your iron status and mess with basically red blood cells. Why? Because it favors the bacterium, and they're able to, again, distract our immune system in a way. So people with H. pylori will get this red blood cell hijack that creates chronic tiredness, that creates all kind. You basically can't oxygenate your cells in the same way that you were, and so that creates tiredness, and that creates all kinds of issues as far as oxygenation of cells. So he can do that, and again, that concerns your immune system. So your immune system is taking time to mess with that. As you get worse, this infection has to be cleaned up, and your body has ways to do that, but it does that in blood and in lymph. And as this gets worse, you're going to be throwing more and more, it's like the Pacific Palisades fire, right? So you're going to be throwing all kinds of helicopters and fire engines and all kinds of stuff at this infection in order to beat it. And all of those guys have to move around in blood. Okay. So the second consequence, or third, of this H. pylori infection would be thickening of the blood. And guess what that causes? High blood pressure. The other thing that causes is stress on the kidneys, the liver, and the heart, because the kidneys have to filter the goo. The liver is still trying to put stuff in the goo, and the heart has to pump the goo. So H. pylori could be absolutely comorbid with a heart attack, with kidney failure, with all kinds of cancers. So this is not a guy that we want to leave inside of us. Now, what do you do if you think that you might have H. pylori? So again, if you have burning, if you have gastric upset, if you're taking Tums every day, or Mylanta, or any of these antacids every day, or if you've been prescribed a proton pump inhibitor, you most likely have pylori. The medical system is not real good at testing for pylori right now, and they're not real good at detecting pylori right now. We have an instrument in our clinic. It's a non-diagnostic instrument. It's just informational, but it's pretty good at, let's say, giving information about whether pylori is present or not. So we have that in Neighborly Wellness. So if you're interested in that, and you're in the Oklahoma area, come see us at Neighborly Wellness. There are certainly other, let's say, frequency scanning technologies that would find H. pylori, and I would encourage you to find people like that in your area if you're not in the Oklahoma area. Now, what do you do if you have H. pylori? Well, the pharma protocol for H. pylori is 2 antibiotics and Pepto-Bismol. We would go a little bit different way. So in TrueMedX, we have built product we've spent actually years building product that will address pylori, because we just see this as such a big problem. There's lots of resources online to figure out, kind of how to kill pylori if you think that you have it. But definitely check out our TrueMedX products, and in particular our Gut Restore product, because that is specifically tuned to kill pylori and help you rebuild the gut after pylori is gone. Pylori causes a lot of damage, a lot of gastritis, atrophic gastritis. You're basically just getting eaten. It's basically eating your stomach lining. So not a bad bug. I mean, a very bad bug, and not a bug that we want to mess with or keep with us. Okay, so I've said a couple of times that our immune system could beat things like pylori. And it can. Our immune system should be able to beat any of these pathogens that exist here on Earth, and we don't. And why don't we? Well, it's because we don't understand how to work our immune system. And this is part of almost every podcast that I do, because I just think this is such important information. So how do you work your immune system? Well, first of all, intermittent fast. And what that means is just packing all of your meals into a certain amount of time during the day. Instead of eating, every 2 minutes, eating 3 or 4 or 6 times a day, eating once or twice a day, and packing that activity into a short time frame. Now, why would you want to do that? Why does that matter? Well, eating is consequential. It takes a lot of energy for you to break down your food, for you to store your food, for you to eliminate your food, and for you to make all the decisions about, what should and shouldn't be done. So that takes a lot of energy. And when we eat, we go into lower gear for like 5 hours until we deal with all of these decisions that have to be made. So in a fasted state, 5 hours past our last food, we turn on all kinds of more robust immune defenses. Our mitochondria are running in a way more powerful state. So we just have more, let's say, reactive and immune power when we're in a fasted state. Now, the other thing that we're doing right now is we're configuring ourselves. So the two most important foods that we eat every day are omega-3 and omega-6 fats. They should be eaten in balance. There's tons of research that indicates this. I don't know why this is such a big secret in our society. Everyone should know this. We should be teaching this in the 3rd grade, that equal amounts of omega-3 and omega-6 fats are what we need to be healthy. And these literally are the two most important foods that we eat every day. Why? Because almost everything that you need to run yourself on the inside comes from omega-3 and omega-6 and saturated and monounsaturated fat. They build endocannabinoid mediators, which is your master regulatory system. So super duper important that we balance omega-3 and omega-6 fat. A real easy way to make you infectable by something like H. pylori is to just feed you an overabundance of omega-6 and no omega-3. And that's exactly what we see in our diet. And that's exactly why a lot of us can't beat H. pylori and get infected with it right now. As we begin to balance omega-3 and omega-6, we will not be so vulnerable, and this will greatly increase the strength of our immune system. So balance omega-3 and omega-6. And the last tip that I would say is B vitamins. Okay, so B vitamins are very important in how cells defend themselves and how they build the ability to defend themselves. But why this is happening, why we're getting infected, we eat way too much omega-6. We don't eat any of the natural stuff that we used to eat, like polyphenols and garlic and berberine. We're not eating as much of that stuff as we used to. And those are our natural defenses, natural antibiotics. Those are things that help our body, supplement our body into a more powerful immune response. We're just not doing that anymore. We're eating a lot of processed food. That's very bad. Processed food causes gut dysbiosis, which just creates a kind of a chaos and confused state inside of the gut so that your immune system is confused and can't really deal with things like pylori. Chronic inflammation is another cause. And again, chronic inflammation is always caused by something. So when we say, and when you hear people say in science and in society, chronic inflammation, just go to the next step. What's causing that chronic inflammation? And again, for a lot of this, chronic inflammation could be caused by an allergy. It could be caused by environmental stuff. So we could live over mold or toxins or something. But the vast majority of us have chronic inflammation because of some kind of infection. And a lot of those infections are going to be H. pylori, okay? If you have a hookworm and pinworm infection, which are also really susceptible to right now, you're going to be more susceptible to get something like H. pylori. Now, at some point, though, these bugs compete against each other because you're the host. They want to eat you and they don't want competition. So pylori is also pretty good about clearing the field. So if you have a really bad pylori infection, then you're likely not going to be infected with too many other things. So I guess that's kind of a blessing not. But any pylori infection, now here's the last little bit of information that I would leave you guys with, is we can't beat a pylori infection on our own right now. Now, if you're intermittent fasting, if you're balancing omega-3, omega-6, and you've been doing that for a while, you're balancing protein. So you're getting all 9 essential proteins. You're taking all your vitamins. You're taking your micronutrients. then maybe you've got a fighting chance to defend yourself and fight off pylori. But none of us are doing that, and balancing omega-3, omega-6. But none of us are doing that right now. None of us, really even know how to do that right now. It's very difficult. Just to balance omega-3, omega-6 is very difficult in our diet. So what we tell people is just supplement with omega-3 because we get so much omega-6. So these are all coming attractions. But again, we need to understand our immune system. We need to understand right now by our diet and behavior how weak we are making ourselves and suffering as a result. And we really need to help educate people to this fact and then get our immune system up, raise our shields, do what we can to fight these guys off. But the long and the short of it is, if you've got H. pylori, you're not going to beat it on your own. You might beat it 5 years from now with knowledge that we have, but right now, you're not going to beat it. You're going to have to intervene in that in some way. So if you think you might have one, come see us or come see someone to get that verified. If you do have it verified, I would strongly suggest you go the natural products route over the antibiotic route. The pharmaceutical industry does have, some antibiotics that will allegedly work with pylori. But people are having a lot more success right now with natural products. So look at our TrueMedX Gut Restore. Things like berberine, polyphenols, mastic gum are really, really good for pylori, but he is hard to kill. All right, so we'll leave it there for today. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this exciting episode of Chip Talks on hugely interesting topic of H. pylori. I hope you guys are as interested in it as I am. I'm kind of being nonsensical here, but it's a very important topic, and someone you love likely has H. pylori, and we need to get that fixed and stopped and out of them. So we'll leave this there for today, and we'll be back next Friday with another exciting episode of Chip Talks. See you guys. Thank you for tuning in to Chip Talks Health, where we uncover the truth so your body can do what it was designed to do, and that's heal. If today's episode helped you think differently about your health, give us a like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs it. Want to go deeper? Visit TrueMedX.com to explore science-backed solutions, or book a bioresonance scan at Neighborly Wellness to find out the root cause of what's holding you back. Until next time, stay curious, stay well, and keep listening to your body.